Doubt to Dominance is our topic today. And it started with an internal conversation around impostor syndrome, which we've discussed here at Club E. And we were kicking around different ideas, and that led us to Trisha over here. And Trisha and her group has covered a variety of things that led to empowering business professionals. And so improving confidence and, again, empowering business professionals to be their best selves. That led us to what we have for today, which we hope to inspire you to achieve even bigger and better things with your business. And that's what we're looking to cover today, whether you're a startup or whether you're kind of in the emerging growth phase, or maybe you're the hyper growth or even aiming towards an exit. It covers really kind of all aspects of the corporate lifestyle and life cycle, talking everything from confidence to building the right team. So thank you all for being here to do that, and look forward to that conversation in a moment or two. So with that, I want to talk about our sponsors. First one is Irish Titan, web development e-commerce company. Darren Lynch, the founder and CEO, is there. And Darren asked me about my red coat, which was my grandfather's. And so I've been wearing it in December here for many years, so it's a little bit of a staple at the December meeting. So if you're wondering about that, that is the red coat. And then Darren, although not a staple for the holidays, the green, so we kind of look like a little Christmas stuff standing up here together. Where Darren's green is his staple, and then if you ask him about his foot and the walking boot he has and why it's green, you'll get that story. All right, Highland Bank is a local and family-owned community bank. I know I have at least one person here, Angie, and then I don't know if I have anybody else today. Well, anyway, Angie's carrying the banner for Highland Bank, and Irish Titan and Highland Bank have been sponsors for many years. Couldn't do this without them. And I'm also do work with and have portfolio companies doing work with both of those entities, and they will definitely take care of you if you have a need in those areas. And then actually Highland Bank has a customer here that I referred to Highland Bank, and so again, they can do a great job if you're looking for that type of business partner. Lastly, Breakthrough Impact Group is a peer-to-peer group of business leaders that I'm involved in. Jeff Redmond's not here today, but anybody who wants to explore peer-to-peer networking and business groups, I'm involved in that. And then maybe the last one, not the least of importance, but Cora Liebig is over there. Cora waved to everybody. Cora is one of the two female tech CEOs I have in my portfolio, and the company's doing great. And anybody who wanted to talk about their business journeys and ask any questions, Cora's sitting over there, and she came to hear our wonderful panelists today. So thank you, Cora, for coming. And as far as signing up, whether it's this event or other ones, just go, we reconsolidated all the brands under brimacombe.com, so you can go there to get to events and whatnot. January 11th is our next meeting. We're moving it out a week because of the New Year's holiday. It's about a best place to work and creating competitive advantage with your company and culture. Darren has spoken on that topic here in the past. And Cora, again, who I just introduced, is part of that January 11th panel talking about best places to work. And then February 8th, we are doing the third version of our AI lunches with Justin Grammons. Justin is right up here. And Justin is going to have one or two other panelists. We're going to do it a little differently this time. Bring your questions, because there's going to be no content delivered. We want the audience to create the content by asking questions. So it's just a session to answer the questions. And so that's kind of what I have for announcements. So why don't you all start to work your way up here. And then before I turn it over to Trisha, and I'll let her introduce everybody, I think we can go to that end over there. There's steps. Don't want anybody going down in their high heels trying to make a big first step. So be careful, everybody. That would make for a memorable conversation. That has not happened here.
Not yet.
Not yet, I should say. Not happened. Anyway, Trisha's the founder and CEO of Mom Mastermind, a women's leadership development company, and then she basically did all the work to pull this one together. We had a conversation around what we wanted to do today, but Trisha really has done everything, and so for that I'm grateful, and let's give her a very warm welcome from Club E and all the panelists.
Well, we are delighted to join you for this discussion today, and thank you, Rick, for the invitation, and thank you to Beth on his team for all the help with the logistics. We picked this topic, doubt to dominance, because I think it reflects a lot of the journeys that we've been on and the conversations that we have with others around how does this work, can I do it, should I do it, where do I go for help when I need it, and how do I know when I've arrived? So I'm going to have each of the panelists give you a little window into their journey with our first question, and they will introduce themselves. Are you an intentional or accidental entrepreneur? What led you here, and why do you do what you do? So we'll start with Heather.
Okay, hi everyone. My name's Heather Boski, and I've got two businesses. So I've got a marketing consulting business where I do strategy sessions for small businesses, and then fractional CMO work, and then I also draw birds and write children's books with my fat bird drawing. So I've kind of got two things going on. And I am 100% an accidental entrepreneur. I never wanted to do this. I never thought I would do this. I spent 22 years in corporate, checking all of the boxes of what success looks like after you graduate and get your piece of paper of you become a manager and then you become a director. And I did all of those things. And even though I twisted myself into pretzels to be what I thought people wanted me to be, I was still too much. I was still too loud, asked too many questions, I was too passionate. I still don't really know what that means. Do you guys know what that means when you're called too passionate? And after getting thrown off the corporate wheel so many times, every time I dusted myself off and got back on. But when I got thrown off for the fourth time in 2021, I decided I needed to look at a different option. And that meant shifting my thinking, because I always thought entrepreneurs were risky and they were scary, and that is still true. I still believe that. But I realized that companies had controlled 100% of my income. And if I started to think of my income as a portfolio like investments, if 5 companies were paying me, well, that seems a lot less risky, because if one went away, I'd be fine. I'm protecting myself more. So I just had to sort of shift that mindset a little bit more. And the reason I started my business was to help small businesses. I also teach an undergrad marketing class part-time, so education is really important to me, and that's really the foundation of how I connect with companies. So my why is to help small businesses that just don't know where to start. They think marketing's complicated. And so I help them with just the foundation and building that. But really beyond that, it's for me. Because what I realized was I was spending a lot of my energy on things that didn't serve me in the corporate world, navigating relationships that were toxic, politics, bureaucracy. And when I put energy towards things like nourishing myself and being inspired, like I'm growing in ways that I didn't even think were possible.
Hi, I'm Heather Polifka, otherwise known as the other Heather. I am both intentional and accidental entrepreneur. So I started my first business. My mom was an entrepreneur, my grandfather was, so I always knew someday I was going to start my own business. I just didn't know what. So I rode the corporate ride for a very long time while I figured that out. And then when I had an experience with following a good boss to a toxic company, and then also having my boss change to a toxic leader, those two things were like, I think I found my why. As I came up through marketing, but I was asked to bring my marketing skills into the HR space, so I had a very cross-functional lens to this, and realized that the two worlds of HR and the business aren't meeting as often as they need to. And I wanted to make this difference for small and mid-sized businesses. So I'm like, okay, I found it. This is what I'm going to do. So I founded Heather P Solutions, which is a culture consultancy focused on small and mid-sized businesses. And I'm chugging along doing that, and I keep running into the same gap. And that is, we can have a great strategy, we can have a great culture, but all of that stops at middle management, mostly because we have not trained and empowered our frontline and middle managers with the foundational skills they need to be able to lead effectively. And I went looking for a recommendation for my clients, and I couldn't find it. So I outlined what I thought it should be, checked in with some CEOs, some experts on my advisory board, and I'm like, this is what I think it should be. Am I crazy? But this is the solution I'm thinking of offering for my clients. And they said to me, Heather, that's not a solution for your clients, that's another business. And so that was the accidental part. But all of this is about, for me, my why is we all deserve to thrive. We all deserve to unleash our talents to their fullest extent. So whatever I can do to help businesses and leaders create a workplace where people can thrive, great talent stays, and companies grow, that's my why.
Good afternoon. My name is Stacy K. My business is Wayzata Bay Private Wealth Management. I would like to say that everything in my life I do with intention. The truth is that there was an intersection of accidental features as well as some intention. So I'll say the accidental nature of my business was the space in which I became an entrepreneur. So moving into the financial realm was not anything that was on my radar when I was getting into college, when I was getting into the workforce. But how that happened was I started in the marketing realm. I was working with small businesses, helping them solve their pain points, helping them solve their problems, helping take very complex things and make processes and follow-up and procedural elements, right, under the premise of marketing. And I did that for small companies, and what I found was these small companies, it went so far beyond just marketing. There was so much more that these companies needed. And so as I ended up stepping into different roles and I ended up morphing, there was an uncovering of what I was truly good at, paired with what I very much enjoyed and what brought me joy and filled my cup personally. And so when I was working at a small business and I had helped this gentleman grow his practice threefold, my aha moment was, this is my field. And now I know I can step in and I want to step into an ownership perspective. Now, how do I endeavor upon that, right? And so that's where the intention was really fused in. I knew I wanted to work with small business owners, given the landscape that I had worked with small business owners, over those 8 years. I knew that those were my people. I know I resonated with them. A lot of them are your dreamers, your innovators, and they really need people to bring everything, to be surrounded by people that can bring things down to the construct of what are we actually going to implement, right? So they need quality partners in different spaces, and finance just happened to be that space that I felt I could add a lot of value. I'll also step even further back to say, when I was younger, I didn't have a lot of mentorship. I didn't see a lot of business owners on the landscape of my life. And so entrepreneurship wasn't even something I saw as a possibility. So it wasn't until I had exposure to that I began to believe that was something that I could do and that I should do. One other caveat, as a youth, I know this is just a maturity aspect that we all go through, but the external perspective and believing that your life is driven by external circumstances versus when I matured to realize that the internal thesis, that I had control and I was in the driver's seat of my own life and I could add intentionality that way, was really the other moment that helped me get through the hurdle of determining that I could be a business owner and that I wanted to step into that space. So again, my clients are primarily business owners as well as executives. I like to say anyone that has a very busy puzzle, I am that person that can help solve it from a money perspective. So.
Great. My name is Colette Campbell, and I think entrepreneurship for me has both been in the corporate and just starting businesses. One of the things that I love to do is I'm an ideator, but I more enjoy taking a concept and making it greater, making it different and better. And so I've done that in different ways. I currently serve in an executive role in financial services, and I work primarily in the areas of finding talent and also in diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I'm kind of an out-of-the-box person, which I think makes me a good entrepreneur and a good person. And in the role that I'm in right now, I typically serve in inaugural roles, a role that has never existed before, and I build that. And so my entrepreneurship shows up differently, I think, depending on what it is that I'm being asked to do. And so currently, what I do, especially around talent, many of you who either own companies or are in organizations, it's kind of a daunting and strange atmosphere out there, right? It's either that it's feast or famine, there's no one out there and people are hiring too much, and now we're trying to right size and figure that out. But we also have to think about talent differently. We have to think about who is in the room, who is not in the room, and how do we get people to do different things. And so that's just been a part of my journey. It's something that I love to do. In the space that I'm in right now, our diversity initiative, we had about a 5% minority representation, and in our hiring in the last couple of years, I made a goal for 5 years, but in 3 years, we've exceeded that to about 20% and continue to do that. So the other thing that I'm really driven by is impact, not just to create something, but to create something that has impact. So excited to be here this afternoon.
Thank you. I have the sun right in my eyes. I'm not complaining though, because it's December and the sun's out, so I'm just gonna enjoy it over here. Yeah. So, hi everybody. I'm Katie Klug. So I am in the corporate space. So I admire all of you on the entrepreneur side, because I think that's amazing, and you all deserve a round of applause for that. So I'm with Bridgewater Bank, a local bank here in town, and I would say my reason for going there and being there the last 6 years, I've been in banking for like 25 years. I started in elementary school. So really great hairstylist. She keeps me looking like this. So I kind of fell into it, right? Like a family friend was in HR and was like, hey, you need a job? I sure do. So I started as a teller and have kind of worked my way through. But being at Bridgewater for me was being at an organization that I could work with entrepreneurs. So recognizing that I myself have not yet fallen on my great idea to join the ranks of you all, I find my passion in working with business owners and helping them kind of achieve their goals and get to where they're going. So that's my kind of way into working with entrepreneurs. And so my role at Bridgewater, I'm the managing director of deposits and treasury management. So I'm responsible for our branch network here in the metro, and then our treasury management team. So my banking folks over there know it's been a fun year being responsible for the deposit side of the house. So my group's working with all of our business clients and helping them provide some efficiencies in their banking. So yeah, happy to be here.
Thanks. And I'll go last. So I would say that in my career, the titles of CEO, small business owner, and entrepreneur were never on my radar. I worked as a chief financial officer in healthcare, highly rigorous, highly regulated, not super creative. And I got out of bed one day a couple years ago and just decided I was going to make a complete left turn. And so as I explored, what do I love? It was leadership development. And then it was leadership development with women. And then it was solving the problem of how do you juggle career and motherhood, which is something that I had to figure out. And so now I help businesses to develop and retain their rising leaders, to grow their pipeline and create more women in the C-suite. So we're gonna hit hard on the first question, and that is just talking straight up about the topic of doubt. The Journal of Behavioral Science says that 70% of people fear being exposed as a fraud at some point in their career, despite evidence of their competence. And so I'm going to ask Stacy and then Heather B. to talk about how did you find your voice and learn to use your voice?
Yeah, so, we always have a voice, and I like to speak in analogies. So the way that I describe this to people is, it's like playing in an orchestra and you are an instrument. And so it's going through that recognition of what is your instrument, what is your potential, what sound can you contribute to the mastery that is this life. What can you bring, and where do you need to be practicing, right? Because it's one thing to have an instrument, and it's another thing to have it really sing and harmonize well with others, right? And so those are two different skills, and that's how I like to think about the construct of finding your voice, because it's always there. So it's the internal perspective of making sure that you are being authentic to your design. And I'll say that was something that was very difficult. I'm in a male-dominated industry, and so there is a way in which to be a financial advisor. There is a way in which to obtain clients. And I drastically countered that and said, that's not how I'm going to build my business, because that's not authentic to me. I'm going to build my business through connectivity and solving problems and bringing resources and ideation and helping solve the biggest pain points for my clients. And that's how I'll grow. And it might be slower or it might be faster. We don't know, but that's not up to me. My job is just to make sure I'm authentic in the voice that I bring to these dialogues and discussions. So that's one application where I did allow my voice to really stand up. And I think I was able to do that because I was later in my career. Had I gotten into finance right out of college, I don't know if I would have had that backbone to say, no, I know myself well enough, and that is not how I'm going to run and operate and have a successful business, because I knew that wouldn't be authentic to my voice. And are we out of time?
Oh, no, you're good. You're good. Okay. Thank you. That was good. All right. So I think it's kind of similar to you. I think it's less about finding your voice and more about unleashing it, because it is always there, and we bury it and we ignore it, but it's there. And I think our job, part of our journey is on this earth, actually. It's not about, finding your purpose. It's about activating it. It's always in here. And I think imposter syndrome, it's really just fear. It's being afraid of not being good enough. It's about being afraid that you're going to get found out that you're not good enough. But what we know about fear is that it is a bridge to great things. And it's that green light that when you start to feel those butterflies of fear, it's like, I gotta hit go, and I am going to plunge across the line, because amazing things are on the other side of that door. And I have imposter syndrome all the damn time. I do. And I remember when I first filed my LLC a couple years ago, and I got my fresh new email account, and I was so excited with my business, and I sat down at my computer, and the first thought was, who is going to pay me to do anything? And the truth is, you cannot half-ass the implementation of a bold move. That is you cannot. You got to go all in. And so I started having conversations with people. And as I was having those conversations, I was answering their questions. I was giving them ideas. And it was like, shit, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm talking about. Let's do this. And so you realize experience and expertise and value when you start to talk to other people, and then you are connecting dots that you don't even realize, and they're like, wow, you are good at what you do. And you're like, yeah, I am good at what I do, even though I have to fake it sometimes, and that's okay. The truth is that the biggest mountains that we have to climb are internal ones. And when you second guess yourself, you're probably spending too much time in here. That's why you have to have conversations with people to remind you that you do know what you're talking about, because our minds are dangerous places to be in alone sometimes. And so talk to people, because when I was sat down at my computer and I had that thought, nobody else was telling me that. It was myself. So I just think you have to talk to other people, and then you start to build that confidence. And when you hear that voice of who's going to pay me, and it's like, well, I got a bunch of people that have paid me. So what? So what now? And that's just kind of how it starts.
So the reality, though, is that 90% of startups fail, and 10% of them fail in the first year. So we can spend all our time on thinking about failing and wondering and worrying, or we can get into the deliberate evaluation and the planning and the executing. And there's so much joy when you take that leap and do the thing. Maybe Heather P., can you talk about one dream that you've achieved in your business and how that felt?
One dream I achieved in my business. All of a sudden, I drew a blank on that. I was expecting a different question. One dream I achieved in my business. I don't know, I'm so focused right now on achieving the next dream. Like, that's the thing in front of me. That I'm now going to be vulnerable. I need to spend a little bit more time celebrating when I hit certain milestones because I'm so focused on what the next step is. For me, Awesome People Leaders, which is the manager development experience that we use neuroscience and high-touch coaching for frontline and middle managers, making that first sale was a big dream achievement. And then this past summer, when a client from Europe reached out to me, and I'm like, hey, I'm global now. That would be, one of those dreams. But what I would say is when we have office hours for Awesome People Leaders so that people can dial in and get impromptu help. And all of a sudden, one of the directors from the board of one of our clients dialed into office hours. And I'm like, what are you doing here? And they said, a year ago when we started working with you, we hoped that we would be able to move our organization, in this direction. And I just had to pop in and tell you that we've exceeded where we hoped we would be. And the best decision we made was working with you and Awesome People Leaders. And I'm like, for a director to take time to do that, promptly hung up the phone and I had a joy cry.
Awesome. So we all have successes and dreams that we've achieved, but there will be companies and dreams that don't come to fruition or that fail. I'm going to ask Colette if you can talk about one do-over that you would wish for in your career.
Okay, that's a great question. Well, you never want to live in regret, but I would say that a do-over for me is being offered opportunities and saying no, and feeling like I wasn't 100% ready. And I think that for many people, this is something that happens in their lives. And for me, my husband and I have 3 children. And as I was in my own career progressing, I had been offered a few different times opportunities to take on pretty senior level roles, and I was like, it's not the right time. It's not the right time, and I don't regret that I didn't do it, but I didn't do it because it was the right time for our family, and it was important for us as a family, the decision. But my reasoning wasn't always about that. Part of it was my own, just not feeling like I was ready and my own inability to address that. And sometimes I think I have this term called where I can be complicit in my own oppression, right? So going back to what you had said about your mind. And it was my own inability to think that I was ready. And so I wish I had said yes sooner. I think sometimes we get into this analysis paralysis, and really, for me, my motto in life is just make a decision and make it great. And if it's not great, you make a new decision and you make it great. But just keep going. And so I don't really live in regret, but I live in like what's next and what's opportunity. And in this time and in the season and in the action, doing the best I can for that time.
So Harvard Business Review cites that experience alone does not make a team successful, that soft skills like entrepreneurial passion and shared strategic vision are required as well. So Katie, can you talk about what's the biggest hurdle in your company and how are you addressing that, either at Bridgewater or with your clients?
Yeah, good question. I was like, well, at home, the schedule is my biggest challenge, thinking about what's happening tonight. So, I think as a lot of you guys are well aware, there's, the rising rates have been a challenge across the board, right? So it's been a challenge for the institution because we're managing rising rates and net interest margin and all those things. And then it's a challenge for clients too, because now all of a sudden your cost of capital is way different than it's been in the last 4 or 5 years, right? So it's having a lot of conversations, navigating through, as we all did, the pandemic, and how do we get back in front of our clients and having conversations. So that's been, I would say, the biggest hurdle we've been seeing from an institution standpoint, and just making sure that we're in front of our clients, we're in front of all of you guys, and we're making the right introductions, right? So if it's not, the bank can't solve for it, who can, and who are the right people to partner with and work for that? with that, and then I would say kind of on more of the internal side, like what Colette was talking about too, just the people, right? As we're navigating in this post-COVID world, and we were talking at our table a little bit about bringing people back to the office and what does that look like, and I've been working with my team on just being very empathetic leaders, because we're all really driven and we want to hustle and move on to the next thing and what's next and how can we help grow our clients and the organization and do all those things. But we also have to make sure that our leaders are happy, things are going well, and being good listeners and being very empathetic leaders is something that we've been really working hard on, because our people are what help us continue to grow. Without our people, we're going to be in a lot of pain. So I think that's been not necessarily a challenge, but something that we're working on.
So Katie, you mentioned a bit about cost of capital. Let's talk a little bit about financial risk and doubt. And so Stacy, how do you think about risk taking both in your business and with your clients, given that 82% of businesses that go under do so because of cash flow problems?
Yeah, so when I think about the construct of risk, most people shy away from risk, but this is a room of entrepreneurs, so I know one thing about you is that you're not afraid to take risks, so I think we can just talk candidly that there are risks that you're endeavoring on just by putting out your own shingle, right? And so I think the question really comes down to what are the known risks and what are the unknown risks? And how do you find people in your life to help you identify the risks that you are not even aware that are on the horizon for yourself as an owner and for your business and for your future growth path? And so that's how I like to think about the construct of risk, is what do I know my risk is, right? So from a risk of, can my business grow at the level of demand? That's a capital question. And how do we raise capital? And who do we go to? And what stage of business are we in? If we're a young entrepreneur, I would say that most young entrepreneurs bootstrap their business. 99.9% of us are writing checks, maybe from our personal accounts. We're taking loans, personal loans out. And so where does the risk lie in that? I see business owners holding on to that funding of their business longer than they need to, okay? So, yeah. So I would encourage anyone that is at that point, make relationships with bankers. Understand how you can get funding and when you have the accessibility to funding and what the different types of funding looks like. Are you eligible for angel funding? Are you eligible to have a group, fundraise? Are you at the stage where you're at capital raise? Who can you go to? Who's going to explain what all those elements are? And then the other side of the coin is, again, getting it off your personal balance sheet, and anything that you've put towards that business from your personal balance sheet, please, for the love of God, document that, okay? One of the biggest things I see young business owners do is not document the amount of money that they've been pouring into their business. That's an opportunity for you down the road when your business is now paying you and you're cash flowing to pull deposits out tax-free, y'all, okay? My Southern drawl comes out when I get really passionate. I'm not even Southern, so when I talk about money, I just get passionate about that. But understand that you need to be documenting the money you're putting into your business, understanding who your resources are, and having, we use the phrase your board of directors if you're at that level. And if you're not, and at every stage you need a personal board of directors, you need a quality CPA, you need multiple banking relationships, a personal banker, a business banker, you need your business attorney, and all of those things to help make sure everything is buttoned up, that it's of quality, and that it's going to take you towards the direction of your business. And so those are some of the tools in which we address risks. I mean, if we have 4 hours, I can keep going, but I'm going to stop there.
Thanks, Stacy. So beyond decision-making skills, culture is another important factor. Entrepreneur magazine cites that 23% of startups mention team issues leading to failure. So Heather P., can you talk a little bit about culture? What's the role of the leader? And anything in your work that you've seen that's different or creative?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm going to make the statement that I think most business leaders and most entrepreneurs don't know what culture is. Okay, good. Thank you. I was afraid I might get booed off the stage. It's something that gets talked a lot about, including trust is another one of those things. It's sort of this angel dust thing, and then you see it on LinkedIn. Come work for us. We have a great culture. What does that mean? Great for you is not the same as great for me. So the first thing is just understanding what culture is, and I will say I love this. I have no investment in this business. Fearless Culture is they've got a really straightforward map that explains it. Yes, it includes your mission and values, but it's a lot more than that. What behaviors are you rewarding and punishing? How are you making decisions and sharing information about those decisions? How are you convening and collaborating? And has that evolved as you've moved to hybrid work or virtual work? What are the things that you're doing that create stickiness? And I don't mean foosball tables and like nap pods. I mean things that really bring a sense of joy and sense of belonging to people. And also asking yourself the uncomfortable question of like, who is bearing the discomfort of our culture? Because most of our cultures are built for the comfort of someone, and that means by the very nature, they're built for the discomfort of someone. So I love that model, and I do share that very openly, and to say this is what culture is. So looking at this, and let's face it, most entrepreneurs started because they were good at X, right? They saw an opportunity in X. But that doesn't mean they've built the skills of how to lead a team. That doesn't mean they've, thought about, I'm just used to making all the decisions, and now I have a team, and now you're explaining to me why that irritates the heck out of the very talented people I've hired. So I think it's also having a lot of grace that, especially for entrepreneurs, that they started their business because they have a profound strength in something, and like all of us as entrepreneurs, we have areas to learn.
So I found this great quote from Forbes, which I think is just ironic and kind of funny. It says, the best way to learn more about entrepreneurship is to start a company. And so like anything that we said today, the best advice is just to go start a company and learn as you go. So Rick asked us to ask some of the common questions that he asks of panels. And one of those is, what's one thing that you wish that you'd learned sooner? And I'll go first on that one. With the operations and finance and kind of like a businessy background, marketing was like this black box for me. And I remember an email that I wrote to Heather, who's been a marketing advisor for my company, and I said, if you need the ROI on a project for 5 years from now, I'm your girl. Or a project that's circling the drain, I'm your girl. But this marketing stuff, I don't understand this. And she took a look at my marketing stuff, and she said, yeah, it's not that good. We got some work to do. Actually did say, it's not that good. And so I think one of the things that I wish that I'd learned sooner is to really find advisors on all the places where you have no expertise. I would have readily admitted, not one day spent in a marketing meeting. And so finding trustworthy people to help you do the things where you have no experience or you're just not as strong as you'd like to be, and learning from those. And so we'll do a lightning round down the row of what would you wish that you had learned sooner?
That mistakes are part of it. Like, that is part of what you are doing and learning and building. And failure is actually like this rich compost from which beautiful and amazing things can grow. Like, you need to fail in order to make things beautiful. And I've got a very good personal example. So in March of this year, my first book, Little Birdie Betties of Minnesota, came out. And I was so proud of my little book baby out in the world. 200 copies were sold. I couldn't believe it. I thought I'd only sell like 20 to my family. And my friend's husband reached out to me and said, "You've got a word missing on page 20. And I was like, no, I don't, because I've read this damn book like 30,000 times. And sure enough, on the page, so the way the book is, it's like Barry is a blue jay, Bella is a blue heron, and on the page that was supposed to say, Sammy is a house sparrow, it said, Sammy is house sparrow. I had these 200 with a word missing, a full word was missing. And I remember being so embarrassed, and it's like, do I have to tell them? Do I have to like refund their books. So P.S., if you bought an early copy of the book, you might have like an upside down penny that I think is actually worth more now because there's only 200 copies out. Yeah. And the thing is, I didn't die. I face planted it a little bit, and that's okay. And I'm gonna make more mistakes. And so I think there's something, and nothing is perfect. We cannot, as humans, we cannot be perfect. And so embrace that things are gonna go wrong and have fun with it and enjoy the ride. Like, we are here to have fun. We are not here to grind away and be like super serious people that just like pay bills and don't talk to me about like, well, we talk about the weather. Like, let's have fun. Let's screw things up and make mistakes and have fun while we're doing it. I just think that's the point.
And we're going to lightning round so that we have time for questions.
Oh, yeah. I'm excited. I have a collector's edition now, though. So this is lightning, but I know it's going to scare us. So first, managing my mindset. The first year of entrepreneurship is the challenge nobody talks about. Secondly, stop using my own money sooner. Thank you, Stacy. And third is I did the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses this spring, and the first assignment we had was, what's our exit strategy? And I went, are you kidding? I'm trying to grow this thing. Why am I thinking about that? But it informs all your decisions, and it was just, it brought such clarity. So that's the thing I wish I would have learned sooner.
All right, I'll try to keep this short. Collaboration, absolutely. I'll just echo that. 2, what helped me actually step into business was a simple exercise that my husband encouraged me to endeavor on. What's the best thing that could happen? What's the worst thing that can happen? And are you okay with either result? So I might just leave it at that.
I would say for me, it's about expanding your perspective, and you have to kind of take inventory of who are your, kind of to go back, you had shared about your board of directors, who are your 5 closest advisors, and then who are your 10, and what are the characteristics of those people. And if they're all the same, you're going to get all the same. And if you are an entrepreneur or just a person who's trying to make it in this world, whatever it is you're doing, you have to expand your perspective, and you can't do that with the same people.
I would agree. I'll echo that a little bit. You know, I've always thought I had to know everything about all the things. That's the only way I was going to be successful. And, you know, as everybody up here has said, that's simply not true. We need to lean on our networks because we all have really great networks. And so finding the right people and trusting, like I trust my marketing group because that's not same what I'm good at. So I lean on them very heavily and they're great. And then taking the time as we're all hustling, like the hustle is a real thing right now, but taking clarity breaks and taking time away from our devices, half hour, 45 minutes a week if you can, and just think strategically about what you've got going on. That's been a game changer for me.
All right. I'm sorry.
I have to say the second one. So the second one is entrust your internal river, your internal tuition, if you want to call that your spirit guidance, whatever you want to call that, but trust that river. I can't tell you the number of times that I've been in situations that I've looked at a resume and I've made a decision based on a piece of paper instead of the person in front of me, and it was wrong. Multiple times over. Look at the person, trust that intuition, because that will not steer you off course.
Thank you. All right, so we have about 5 minutes for questions. Are there any questions? You first.
When women receive about 2% in venture capital or early investing, what do you think women can do that would help change that model? I know the other side of the equation, but I'm asking you, what do you think can be done?
Well, because I'm working on funding right now, there's not enough talking about, there's the financial in terms of am I going to be able to do my business and stay afloat, but not enough in terms of the business plan, having a model, knowing what your exit plan is to guide your decisions. That sense of clarity, which is critical as you're having financing conversations. And I think because women self-fund, I know myself, intimidated as HE double hockey sticks to go and have those conversations. So I delayed longer than I should have, but you know, that's part of the learning journey. So I think having some of those conversations, which working with someone like Stacy, she'd kick you in the rear and have you having those conversations earlier.
Yeah, I'm going to keep this pretty simple because, again, that's something we can unpack for quite some time, and we can talk about that is a systemic issue, and the main way to change that is to turn up the volume on the demand. And so whether you are I think it takes the whole village, right? I think we all should be lobbying, right? We should be talking. Men and women-owned business should be talking about how do we fund women businesses. I think you should be going to women-owned businesses and saying, do you have enough money? I see you have this vision. Let's ask them questions, right? Let's get them engaged in the conversation, because until the demand is strong enough, right, we're not going to see those tools come to market. And I won't step in and speak about what the market offers, but the demand needs to raise.
Question, we've got a lot of experience and talent and pain and agony up here, because I've been there, done that, not as a woman. What still keeps you up at night?
I can tell you what keeps me up at night. We have too many people who are unemployed and underemployed. And so we have to think about, as business owners, how do we think differently, expand how we think about who we need and talent. And that's going to take, I was in Chicago yesterday speaking at LinkedIn, and with a whole bunch of, about almost 100 business owners. And we have to think differently about how we think about people. Otherwise, the whole thing is going to slow down. AI is helpful, but it's not going to replace people. And so if we don't think differently and expand how we see people and skills, then we're going to be in some big issues soon. So that's what keeps me up at night.
I think for me, it's around just how many potential women business owners are sitting on the sidelines. I think women have a tremendous ability to pull things together, to see vision, to create value, to give back to the community in ways that could change this world for the better. And a lot of them are working for someone else making them money. And I think we all have dreams in our heart, and our job is to pour it out. And so if working for someone else and making someone else money is not your dream, you owe it to the world to get that out. And so I just think there's a lot of women, because of family obligations and otherwise, that are taking themselves out of the game.
I would just take that another step forward, and I think there's an opportunity for corporations to do more work with small businesses of all kinds, including women-owned businesses. It is still very secular. Corporations work with other large corporations, and small business owners are kind of on their own trying to sell to the biggers, and I think there's room for improvement there. Is there one more question?
Well, I would add, in order to do that, the bar has to be lowered. You can't have insurance requirements that are through the roof. You can't pay in 90 and 120 days if you're going to work with small businesses. So if there's anyone from corporations sitting in the room, it's a really nice idea that a lot of big corporations talk about here in the Twin Cities and overall, but the realities of the procurement process inhibits and prevents small businesses. So that's an action that can be taken.
Yeah, and I just get one more. I think it's the knowledge share as well. It's the same thing with finances as it is with how we keep women in the business pipeline and how women enter into business ownership. It's knowledge. It's exposure to seeing more women in leadership, to having companies like Trisha's that talk about what it's like to be a mom. There's a reason that, I can't imagine raising a family and having a business baby. That seems impossible, but yet all of these women are doing it.
Thank you. How about the gal right here? I think your hand was up.
I hesitate asking this because it's another capital question, but I think I've already touched on that capital's not a level playing field when it comes to race and gender. And so I think we get often very broad answers to how to make it more accessible and how to empower women and people of color to access capital. So I'm just wondering if anyone has a tangible or a concrete memory of, when you were trying to access capital, maybe from outside of yourself, if this had been this way, if this process had been different, if it had looked this way, if I had known this,
so one of the biggest arenas that keep small businesses from accessing capital is they haven't done the work that makes them lendable. Okay, so what does that mean? Their balance book isn't strong enough for someone to say, you have the tenure in this business. I can see the pattern of you bringing in a certain amount of income. So maybe that means you're spending, maybe a little bit less on marketing for a moment, but to make sure that you have consistency in your earnings, that you're showing that your business has become profitable, because that's what a banker is going to look at to say, are you lendable? Is this a relationship I can trust that you're going to be able to pay me back? So first and foremost, you need to have that river be consistent month in and month out. And so if that means you need to sell something different or additive, right, to just kind of keep that engine going, the hardest part of these seasonal businesses where their products maybe all pop in December and they're trying to get a loan in October, and it's like, I'm sorry, but you can't put that in. Some of these companies have to put in their manufacturing, but in the summer to get for their December sell. And it's very difficult unless you can prove year over year, time in, time out, that you're able to be a quality lending company.
All right, so a couple things. There is one woman in this audience who has raised venture capital, Cora Liebig. Wave your hand. And yeah, let's give her a round of applause. Good topic for a different day, but just yes or no, do you think it was problematic for you raising venture capital as a female CEO? Definitely. Okay, so that'll be a topic that we'll cover a little bit maybe in January, because she's already on a panel, so we'll weave that answer in. I also want to say that these folks are in the business to make money. And I think myself, the biggest issue, whether you're male, female, tall, short, whatever, is how much money you can make in your business. And these people need to make 5 times their money, bare minimum, in a few years. And if you don't show them a business plan that can make, at a bare minimum, 5 times, and their preference is a business plan that makes 10 times their money, with an upside case, if it breaks right, 100 times their money. So you show me an investment opportunity that can make 10 to 100 times, whether you're male, female, tall, short, you're going to have an opportunity to get investment. So ask yourself, who's the right investor for your company? Is it a bank with your own guarantee on that? Is it friends and family? Is it angel investors? Or is it venture? And venture runs where the big money goes. And so you got to show them something that has a pot at the end of the rainbow. Anyway, topic for another day. Happy to do that. Thank you so much. Let's give the panel a round of applause. And if Cora doesn't have to run back to her office, because she is out raising money right now and actually has some money secured, but is raising more, if anybody wants to talk to her about that or ask her questions, we will weave that into the conversation in January. Thank you very much for being here. Again, you need a sticker for your parking ticket, and we have the room basically as long as you all want to stay. So come on up, introduce yourself to the wonderful panelists, and I'm sure they'd be happy to talk to you. Thank you.